Day 9.
Morning. Today is Monday. Let's see in terms of economical calendar what do we have today. Today we have a pretty low probability day because I think it's CPI week, yeah. And usually on CPI week, Monday and Tuesday are not that high probability. Generally, what we do in weeks like this, we look to trade Thursday and Friday. So yeah, we're not gonna generally look to trade these days, but if an opportunity presents itself, we're probably gonna take it. Geo, it's a bit stronger, but we still have a 4-hour reclaim, so this can be valid. It's just that we cannot target that much. I still think this rejection block might be slightly dangerous, but again. And on the 1 hour, the inversion is a bit more above, so this can be a better setup for us to take because of this inversion being more recent. On euro, we already retested that inversion we see here, so that kind of takes away relevance. But on here, we didn't test the inverse, right? So this becomes our POI to trade for higher prices. Probably towards this, we can even target the high, but it still has a pretty high chance. Geo still struggling to break here. Even if it works, it's not a setup I wouldn't necessarily trade in. So I think I'm actually taking this. Now we have more confluence and I really like this gap. And I don't know exactly what we're targeting. Generally, we should come for this high. This range high, this is usually where we go for. So that's gonna be our final target, but we're definitely gonna look to take some parcels along the way. So we have two highs here, and this is good because we also have this 30-minute here, so this is going to be probably our area for our main TP. Why the trade is good right now is because we also closed above the 1 hour inversion, which was my reason for concern, right? And we had this buy side liquidity sweep here, and if we would have rejected of that 1 hour and start going lower, we would have probably come towards this. So now that we close above this, is pretty bullish sign that we're going to go higher, probably towards this. Or what I really like is we have a really well protected stop loss here because of this consolidation and because of this 3-minute inverse right here. I like the gap. It looks like a solid gap. It's an isolated gap, and it's also formed around that 1 hour FVG. So now we also have that 1 hour as a confluence that our entry is good. Yes, we got tapped and it looks really good. So if this gets inverse, yeah, we can scale in because it just tapped our entry. So now if we get signs of going high, we can scale in as soon as that. I don't know exactly if I place a limit right now. It's a good idea. I think it's probably better to place it. God damn, son. We have this bearish gap forming right now, so we want to see that respected. We do have this order block. Maybe I should have taken my entry on this order block instead. From there now, it doesn't look that great. Pretty bearish, but again, it's too early to do anything. None of our objectives get met. We had this. We didn't even have that. We had this internal liquidity, but so we gotta be careful at this point because remember we have that 50-minute close that is, let me look on TradingView, that is pretty dangerous. So yeah, but we do not have a 3-minute gap right now, so for now there's no reason to close the trade. We're still retracing, and now we rated this low, so now we might see that bullish intention. We want to see this getting disrespected, this small bearish VG here, and generally this high. Now we have equal highs here, so now we have a reason to draw higher. See this equal highs right here? Scaling that stopped out. Apparently we formed this 3-minute gap, so now I'm kind of looking at 1 minute, how 1 minute behaves, and depending on how 1 minute behaves, maybe I'm gonna close my trade. The scaling, I don't think there was nothing we can do. Sometimes scalings get stopped out. The only thing that could make a difference is if we would have entered here, but we were still lost. The thing is, we kind of held this inverse a lot here. Now we're just building liquidity like this. Sometimes price does this. It builds liquidity on POIs, but we also build that intention lower to coming to re-sweep this low. So now I still think there is a pretty high chance we're going to continue higher, especially since we have this buy side liquidity. Yeah, we did get stopped out, but sometimes it happens. It's only a 0.5. 3-minute gap, yes, high relevance entry somewhat because of this high. So this is definitely a potential dangerous entry pattern if we see this 1 minute play out. Even to trim, yeah, trim is the second option. So either close the full position or take a trim, or don't do it. So I had to trim 0.5 basically. This is a pretty high relevance entry. Like regardless if I want to see the trade play out, I need to close here because we had the 50-minute high get taken, and then we had a bearish entry pattern. What was the bearish entry pattern? 3-minute gap with 1 minute inversion here. So I had to trim half, so this way I limit my loss with this one. It's gonna be at around 1%, and it's also 1 hour gap. I'm considering closing full. I closed because I realized it's actually a high relevance opposing entry pattern here, because it's not only high taken, it's high taken, 1 hour FVG and opposing entry pattern. So I ended up closing. Maybe it's the wrong choice, maybe it isn't, but we ended up being at a -1% for the day. Right, I should have closed full here. So if I would have closed full, scaling stop loss got hit here. Then I trimmed that around break even when I saw a bearish entry pattern. When I saw this gap form, after we should have been closed realistically at around here, and the last I closed around here, which also should have been closed at around here. Get like a 0.5 loss per this trade instead of 1%. That's the only difference. I think it's really high chance we're gonna go lower now. It's a opposing entry pattern and it's pretty strong. So that would have been probably the best decision on this trade. Getting only at a 0.5 instead of a 1%. That's pretty much it. Like, we gotta take what the market's giving us. If today it's a loss, it's a loss. I don't think generally I did something wrong, just my trade management needs slight improvement. So on this 3-minute gap here, this was our sign that we're getting that bearish entry pattern. And on this 1 minute inverse here I should have closed all of my position, because it's a high. It's a very dangerous opposing entry pattern because of this 1 hour gap that I didn't really consider. I didn't consider this 1 hour gap. That's the problem, because this 1 hour gap makes the trade management decision to close instead of trim my position at around break even. So I should have closed, and if I didn't take the scale in, we would have just get out of break even on the day. So that would have been the best choice. But the only way I wouldn't have the scale in is if I would have entered 0.5 on here, which I should have done. Like, it's a normal day, it's just the trade failing because of opposing liquidity. Still think it's worth taking. It's just that price reacted of an early objective. That's pretty much it, which sometimes happens. We gotta take what the market's giving us. Just a normal day. So let's go over the trade. The trade wasn't that bad, it just was overextended, and it was in an area of pretty high resistance, right? We had a lot of resistance on these highs. So this was one of the trade that generally reverses before TP. So we should have managed the trade a bit better. Most of the issues are trade management and my scaling. The context wasn't bad, our entry wasn't bad, scaling was bad. First reason was where we took our entry should have been on this order block or lower. Second reason, which is more important, we took our scaling after first objective got reached. Therefore this made the trade really risky. London Open entry. On the London Open, you saw me watch this. I didn't like it because we had a lot of resistance on these highs, but this wasn't a trade that was necessarily worth to be skipped. I should have went 0.5. So if I would have went 0.5 here, we would able to get a 2 towards 3R on the high, so it would have been a way different outcome of the trade. I come up with a rule for my scalings from now on. Scalings are forbidden once main objective gets reached or one objective gets reached. So our scaling here should have been forbidden, right? Medium relevance. On medium relevance closes, I usually trim my position, which is what I did, but I failed to realize that we had this 1 hour gap, which would have made the difference between a medium relevance and a high relevance. So because of this 1 hour gap, we should have ended up closing the trade, right? Let's look at the optimal outcome with the current input. So considering we had our entry and our scaling here, on the main position, what we should have done is take a trim on this highs, because this is my partial system on an objective. If we get a gap, we can let it continue. I'm forced to take a partial, so should have trimmed around 50% here, which would have secured us 165, and full close on the opposing entry pattern here should have been at around 0.1%, so totaling around 0.4% on the trade on the main position instead of taking a loss. Scaling, we couldn't do anything here. This would have been a full stop loss. So in total, if we would have managed the main position, as I said, with a trim, with a 50% trim on this inversion and a full close here, we would have been able to get around at a break even. Even with the stupid scaling, we would have been able to get at a break even instead of a -1% day. So this can make a huge difference. Now let's look at the optimal input, so the optimal way of me managing the trade or entering the trade. So the main position should have been on London Open here, should have been a 0.5. We're looking to have our main TP on the first objective. And the scaling would have been where we had our main position today, where we entered, so scaling would have been here. Now let's go over the optimal outcome, which we would have probably either have full TP here, which means securing a 1%, or have an 80% trim when we inversed right here. So I calculated with a 80% trim. On the main position, we would have secured a 0.8 and on the scaling 0.2, and we would have fully closed both of the position on this entry pattern that we had. So in total, we would have made a 1.3, 1.5%. So in general, it's just a trade management issue. The trade wasn't that bad. It just was a trade where we had slight inclinations towards failing, which we should have adapted to, and we should have trimmed our positions better. But again, still happy I learned. I'm still happy to get an opportunity of me learning and refining my trade management and understanding a bit more how to navigate trades that even fail, or trades like this, how you should risk. Should you skip a trade, should you not skip a trade, when should you trim, when you should scale in. So as long as I learn something and I'm able to refine my trade management, which generally my issue, my decision making, I'm happy, because this is what I gotta improve, and today I definitely improved that. So I'm gonna see you next time.